Hello and welcome to this session of Entrepreneurship Essentials. Our today's topic is forms of legal entities or legal forms of business. In this session, we are going to cover the different types of legal forms of businesses and what are the advantages, disadvantages of them, and finally, we will talk about what kind of form is suitable for a startup company, given its various features. So, these are this particular topic can be called in different names like forms of legal entities, legal forms of business, etc. Now, there are several forms actually. Start with sole proprietorship, the simplest form, and then partnership. Then one person company is a new kind of entity that has been allowed under Companies Act 2013. Then we have limited liability partnership, again another new format of business. Then private limited company, public limited company, cooperative, joint Hindu family business, and subsidiary company. There may be many others. Primarily, we will be covering from proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership, one person company, private limited, and public limited. Time is very short, so I have to move really fast. Sole proprietorship form is the simplest form of we can say corporate entity or simplest form of business ownership, wherein a single person is the owner of a business, and it's very easy to form, and then its legal existence continue after the death of the proprietor, and it ceases to exist on expiry of the sole proprietor. It's regarded as single entity, the owner and the business, as regards ownership of asset, income tax, and then liability, external legal liabilities. They are not separable. Proprietorship form is characterized more by unlimited liabilities, meaning that the liability of the business and the liability of the proprietor are not different, meaning any liability for the business is a liability for the proprietor. Then on the flip side, proprietor has complete control, meaning he does not have to consult anybody to take decisions about any actions of the business. Then at the same time, just because he is the sole proprietor, so he or she enjoys the full benefit, meaning if he is kind of running the business or deriving competitive advantage out of his own expertise, then whatever profit he generates, he enjoys or he or she enjoys all of it. But if the business requires more money, then he has to depend on his her own capability, because there are no other partners to depend on, partners or any other member is the right word. As I said, the proprietorship business continues to exist as long as the proprietor exists. So, life of business is not long, it is connected to the life of the proprietor. Now, there are two very important issues that I am going to discuss moving forward. One is income tax issue, the other is unlimited liability. These two are very important factors for making decisions whether to really start a proprietorship business or anything else. As regards income tax, because proprietor and business are not separate, so income of the business is clubbed with the income of the proprietor. Means if proprietor has any other source of income, two are clubbed together, and then income tax is decided based on individual's income tax. Now, it is a very simple example. Suppose that proprietor or the owner earns some 6 lakh rupees from some other source, and then the business also makes a profit of 5 lakh rupees. So, total income of the proprietor becomes 5 plus 6, 11 lakh rupees. So, the proprietor now has to pay income tax on the whole of 11 lakh rupees, but he gets the advantage or the benefits of the income tax slabs that is applicable for individuals, but then that may not be always profitable or that may not be always advantageous to the proprietor. I will discuss that moving forward very soon. The other important feature about proprietorship business is the unlimited liability. Just because the same reason that proprietor and the business are not distinct entities. So, any liability of the business is the liability of the proprietor as well. Just to explain this with an example, suppose the business borrows 10 lakh rupees from some bank, and then because of whatever reason the big business may not run well, or for any reason whatsoever, the companies does not fare well, and then defaults in the repayment of the loan and interest. Now, bank will try to recover the money. So, the first source for recovering the money is selling the assets of the business. Suppose by selling the assets of the business, bank recovers, or bank is able to recover only 6 lakh rupees. Now, bank will now lay their hands on the personal assets of the owner or proprietor to recover the remaining 4 lakh rupees. If the owner has a housing property, house building, or any other property for that matter, the bank will try to liquidate that and get the remaining 4 lakh. Presume that the proprietor does not have this similar kind of a property. Suppose the proprietor has property of maybe 2 lakh rupees. So, bank will recover the 2 lakhs. Bank has to forego the rest of the money. Or if the proprietor has a property of say 1 crore rupees, bank will recover only 4 lakh rupees. Rest of the money will accrue to the founder or proprietor. Other features of proprietorship firm is like this. The primary legal formality is very simple. It is just to obtain a trade license to start a business and goods and services tax registration. These two registrations enable an individual to start a proprietorship business. All these formalities are very simple nowadays. Trade license can be issued by a local panchayat if it is within a panchayat area, or it should be issued by a corporation if the business is within a corporation area, within the purview of or area of a corporation. And all the document that is necessary for obtaining a trade license is a proof of address. Other than that, the PAN card, Aadhaar card, and all which are now compulsory for identification, those are essential, but a document as a proof of the premises where business will be conducted is essential. For own premises, a Xerox copy of the title deed should be good enough. For rented premises, rent agreement, copy of the rent agreement should be submitted as a proof that the premises is decided and the location of the business is such and such, etc., etc. GST registration has become very simple now. One can do it online visiting this website gst.gov.in. For particular kinds of business, there are necessity for different kinds of licenses or registration. Like for any shop, registration under the Shop and Establishment Act is essential. Similarly, if someone is starting a restaurant or any kind of food business, then a certificate from Food Safety and Standard Authority of India is necessary. The advantages which are already discussed, I will just elaborate, I will just run through. One is ease of formation, it is very simple to start. Maximum incentive for work. If a proprietor decides to work 24/7 or long hours, the benefit will accrue to himself or herself directly, meaning that there is incentive for hard work directly accruing to the person. Then if the business or the competitive advantages of the business is derived out of some trade secret, some technology which is not protected by patent or copyright or anything, then it remains a secret. It is easy to maintain the secrecy of the business, whether it is business model or whatever. So, that is another advantage, but for other entities where there are multiple members, may be slightly difficult. Then decisions are quick, meaning if the proprietor decides to go for expansion of the business in any particular direction, there is no issue at all. nobody has to be consulted, no conflict of interest or decisions. But there are disadvantages too. There are in fact many of them. Because it is the sole proprietor, so the proprietor has to depend on his or her own capability to infuse capital for business expansion. So, that is kind of a limited factor. Then means the proprietor has to depend on the own managerial capability. Of course, one can hire professional managers to supplement the knowledge. Then life is limited, it is not unlimited, limited life. The business ceases to exist the time when the proprietor expires. Very importantly, the clubbing of income of the business and the proprietor, and paying tax as an individual sometimes is disadvantageous, because had it been a company, then beyond 10 lakh rupees of income, the rates are favorable for the companies and not so favorable for individuals. And because of the simplicity, normally small business like grocery shops, like any kind of retail store, very small companies where single individual is the owner of the business, they prefer this kind of legal format. Second in line is partnership business. Partnership is multi-owners, meaning owners are more than one, two or more, and the legal formality for partnership is there can be a partnership deed, and that is an agreement or a contract between the members, and that can be registered, that can be unregistered as well. So, it is kind of fluid, and the agreement can be verbal. It can be an agreement between the father and the son or different family members. So, it can be very formal if it is registered. If it is not registered, it may not be so very formal. When the deed is a deed is made and registered, it is called partnership deed, which contains major point of dispute that may arise, like ownership percentage or profit percentage, and then what is the roles and responsibilities of individuals, how much capital different individuals are going to chip in, etc., etc. So, that at the time of resolution or at any point of time, if there are conflict among partners, then the partnership deed, whatever is written there, can resolve this issue. In absence of any written document, the Partnership Act 1932 or the provisions in the Partnership Act 1932 apply. There are advantages and disadvantages. Advantages is ease of formation, like proprietorship firm. Here also, two or more than two persons can decide to start a business maybe within a couple of days, just by obtaining a trade license and GST registration, unless they decide to make the agreement formal, meaning registration of the partnership deed. Of course, that also does not take a lot of time. Then, because there are more than one person, so it is kind of easy to raise more capital, because there are more than one individuals, and every individual can bring in complementary skills. So, maybe there will be balanced skill of the team. So, they may reap benefit of background of different individuals. Disadvantage is that like proprietorship, life of partnership is limited to life of any partner. Any partner, at the death of any partner, the business will be dissolved, and through a court verdict, new partnership may be formed, but normally the life of the business ends with the death of any partner. A very important part is that any misdeed by one individual partner can create trouble for other partners, like any liability arising out of a wrongdoing by one partner will be automatically inflicted on other partners. They become party to it. provided it's a business actions. His or her personal means the actions that is taking in the personal sphere, which is not affecting the business, are not going to affect other partners. But if for any action the business is charged or business becomes liable to pay something, pay penalty or anything, then all partners become party to that. So, that is a very kind of a glaring risk that other partners are exposed to. Similarly, limited life of partnership firm, unlimited liability, like if the business is liquidated or there is claim by creditors which is more than the worth of the business or more than that can be recovered by liquidating the business, the partners' personal assets will be liquidated or will be charged or will be liquidated is the right word to make good the shortfall. I have a very small example moving forward. The same example that example that I have given for proprietorship can be referred is a fit example for this as well. Now, like proprietorship, partnership also is suitable for a format of small medium sized business owned by more than one person involving limited capital, because they cannot raise capital from the public, things like that. This may include a small scale industries, wholesale, retail trade, small businesses like that. Here is a small example about unlimited liabilities, which is a kind of I believe the copy that I showed in proprietorship. So, if the company owes 10 lakh rupees to the bank, suppose the liquidation value of the company is 6 lakh rupees, then the bank, after liquidating the company, recovering 6 lakh rupees, will try to lay their hands on individual partners' assets. And how means whose assets will be liquidated first is a decision that should be enshrined in the partnership deed, or they can decide moving forward, meaning whenever it arises they can decide as to which particular asset of which partner should be liquidated. Partnership again for as an entity is not distinct from partners, meaning partnership entity does not have a distinct entity, but as regards income tax, it is regarded as a separate entity. Partnership firm has a separate PAN number and they have to pay tax separately, separate from the founders or partners. So, the tax rate is 30%. So, whatever is the income of the partnership firm, they pay 30% tax, but at the same time the partnership firm can pay salary to the partners, or they can borrow money from the partners. So, they can pay interest to the partners, and partners' income or the salary that is driven by partners will be clubbed to their other incomes and they pay individual tax return. That is very different, meaning partnership firm gives salary, forget about it, and it is up to the individual partners to manage their own taxes. But as far as the partnership firm is concerned, whatever is the income of the partnership firm, taxes decided based on that 30% flat. Of course, if the profit is more than 1 crore rupees, they have surcharge and the tax goes up. So, means dwelling details of that is not within the scope of this, because I have to complete so many things in half an hour. Now, the next in the line is limited liability company, is the most favored structure of entrepreneurial ventures, particularly in the slightly forward level. To start with, one may start proprietorship or partnership, because they do not want to get involved into all those registrations and all, which involve substantial amount of cost and compliances. So, rather than getting involved into all that, perhaps it makes sense to remain a partner, to retain the company in a partnership or proprietorship format, depending on how many people are behind the company, behind the firm. Now, limited liability company is a voluntary association of individuals, more than 2 individuals, and then they kind of create an enterprise through formalities, means the detailed formalities are not here, but they have to register the company, and then I am going to discuss some of the features very briefly. Now, this is limited liability company. Limited liability means before I enter into private limited or even one person limited company, then limited liability partnership, then private limited company, then limited public limited company. Before I enter into that, I would like to discuss one generic feature, one feature which is common to all the limited liability company, which is limited liability structure of enterprise. That makes a distinction between proprietary or partnership and companies. So long I did not use the term company, these were firms, partnership or proprietorship firms, but companies which are where the liabilities of the founders or members are limited by shares are referred to as limited liability company, and their liability is limited to their partial ownership in the business. It is variously defined, but it is clearly this is the definition, that their partial ownership. If a business, suppose I own 10% of a business, so my liability is limited to the 10% of today's value of the business. Suppose the business value is say 100 crore rupees. So, my liability or my ownership also is 10% of that, which is 10 crore rupees. Now, suppose there is a claim of some party to the company for 1000 crore rupees, my liability is restricted to 10 lakh, even if I may have property of maybe say 1000 crore rupees or whatever, maybe 50 crore rupees, but then the creditors or lenders who is supposed to get 1000 crore rupees to the company, they cannot touch my personal asset unless there is any agreement to the contrary. So, that is limited liability. My liability is limited to the extent of my share of the ownership in the company. So, my share of the assets, liability or net worth of the company is the right word, net worth of the company as of date. The creditors lender to such companies can recover their dues only to the extent possible by liquidating the company. Now, the same example that has been extended to a limited liability company, where the bank is supposed to get 10 lakh rupees, they sell the company and then recover, they are capable of recovering only 6 lakh rupees. Now, the bank cannot recover the remaining 4 lakh by selling the assets of the founders or directors of the limited liability companies. Normally, they are either referred to as director in private limited or partners in limited liability partnership company. We will see that moving forward. Now, I have placed one person company as the first in the pecking order of limited liability company. It is the simplest form among the limited liability company. It is a limited liability company by single member, meaning one person. Suppose you decide today that you will have a limited liability company, the simplest format is you become a director and the single director, there will be nobody else in the business, it becomes a one person company. You may have a nominee, so that in the event of your death, the nominee automatically becomes director. You may or may not have a nominee. If you do not have a nominee, then the court will, means through a court order, a nominee will be decided judicially, meaning that it is not whimsical or anything. The main advantage of one person company is that one person can register a company, run it and maintain secrecy and reap the benefit that he can bring to the table, unlike private limited company, where there will be multiple directors, or say limited liability partnership also will have more than 2 partners. As I mentioned, there are 2 types of limited liability. one person company companies are primarily of two types. There may be there are four types actually, primarily two types. One is company limited by shares, another is company limited by guarantee. Limited by guarantee, there are three formats, but we will discuss only these two formats of one person company. One person company which is limited by guarantee has shareholders who act as guarantor and promise to pay a small sum in case of liquidation of the company, just to protect the interest of creditors, lenders, etc. And OPC listed by shares will have a minimum capital of 1 lakh rupees, and they are not allowed to transfer their shares to public, but then they can transfer the share easily to another person when they transfer the ownership per se. They are not allowed to issue shares to the public. Now, a comparison between OPC and sole proprietorship is so obvious. This is limited liability, that is unlimited. The OPC has continuity of existence, but partnership is a kind of succession is through court, or there is no succession. Then in OPC actually there is a provision of a nominee, so automatically a nominee becomes director. Then compliance, there are some compliances in OPC, but compliance in proprietorship is limited. Conversion of OPC to private limited are two types. One is by force conversion, involuntary, one is voluntary. Voluntary means any time after 2 years the single person, single member can decide to convert that company, that OPC into a private limited company. Compulsory conversion is under certain condition, like if the equity goes above 50 lakh rupees, or the average turnover in the preceding 3 years is more than 2 crore, then automatically means there is a compulsion that company has to be converted into a private limited company. Otherwise, the single or sole single person who is the single member of the company can decide to convert into private limited, but then he has to, within a short time, he has to raise capital to the level of 50 lakh rupees and turnover of 2 crore, otherwise it will revert back to OPC again, but it can be done only after 2 years, meaning the conversion from OPC to private limited. Motivation can be many: single promoters, so full control, then easy transferability, you can transfer ownership to someone. Then borrowing capacity means lenders normally prefer a company over partnership or proprietorship. Then because it is a company can own another property, another company, any asset, but a proprietorship or partnership cannot. So, there are reasons to really register an OPC. Transfer of ownership is simple, I explain, I will not waste time. Limited liability partnership is almost like a limited liability private limited company with some difference. Of course, we did not discuss private limited company, but we have a chart showing differences, will be better to explain there. LLP is a corporate structure that combines the flexibility of partnership and the advantage of limited liabilities, meaning it restricts the liability of the partners. At the same time, they have the managerial flexibility of a partnership, private limited liability and a partnership. Normally, small and medium enterprises across the globe, they prefer LLPs. Here is the difference between LLP and partnership firm. I have not included the common features, I have included only the dissimilarities. So, liability of partners are unlimited, liability limited. These are self-explanatory. I will not waste a lot of time here, because I am running out of time. So, one can pause the slide and read them, very important. Now, I move to private limited company. This is a corporate entity, a voluntary or association of more than 2 and less than more than 2 and up to 200 members. The liability of each member or owner is limited to the extent of ownership, their respective ownership in the company. In case of default by the company, the lender or creditors cannot lay their hands on the individual's personal assets. That is the difference between, that is the benefit of limited liability company. And here the shares owned by individual members cannot be transferred to outsiders. They can transfer the shares within the enterprise, within the private limited company itself, not outside. I will read the last line because it is not fully visible. They keep control over the business within a limited circle and maintain the privacy of the business, meaning that a public limited company has to publish their books of accounts, where they have a annual annual report which contains their business strategies, their futuristic guidelines. So, all these are vulnerable to be exposed to the competitors, whereas private limited companies are not are not exposed to that, are not liable to do that. Here is an example which is a repetition which I gave for a limited liability company. So, I am not wasting time on that, one can pause and see. Advantages, disadvantages are kind of self explanatory, I have already explained them. So, let us move forward. We will see this, the text are not so visible because contrast is not so good, but nevertheless it is understandable. Minimum shareholders for a private limited company 2, minimum partner for a LLP is 2, minimum directors 2, in partnership they call minimum partner. So, 2 designated partner, then maximum shareholder is 200, whereas in LLP there is no maximum limit. Then the activities are defined in private limited companies through the memorandum and articles of association, whereas in LLP they have a declaration in schedule 1 of the act. Similarly, the procedures that are followed by private limited companies are held in articles of association. The same thing is in schedule 1 of the LLP act. Transfer of share is restricted, but transfer of share is NLP is not so much restricted, it can be done easily, but then transfer of share to a third party or somebody outside the LLP will not automatically make that transferee a partner. That is a different process altogether. There is a common seal for private limited company, in limited liability partnership is optional. Then most importantly, dissolution or winding up is very difficult in private limited company, whereas in LLP it is easier. Public limited company is very similar to private limited company. The primary difference or the major differences being that here the number of shareholders are unlimited, whereas in private limited companies the maximum members is 200. Here the minimum number is 7, maximum number is unlimited. One can pause and read more, and I have a chart showing the differences. I think information will be more clear there. Minimum number of members 7 in public limited, 2 in private, minimum number of directors 3, minimum directors are 2 there. Maximum number of members is unlimited for public limited, 200 in private limited, minimum capital is 5 lakh rupees, minimum capital there is just 1 lakh rupees. I think other major things are kind of understandable. Joint Hindu family is another form of business where only Hindu family member is undivided family members can become a member of the business, is governed by Hindu law. One very important part is subsidiary company. Many companies in India and abroad, they have subsidiary companies. Subsidiary companies are owned by another company, partially or fully. When a company fully own another company through either they promote it themselves or they take over, and they do not transfer the share of the merged company, they retain it as a going concern, individual independent company, then it is called a subsidiary company. It is called a wholly owned subsidiary, otherwise it is partially owned subsidiary, meaning that a company can own part of a company. There is another format called cooperative. Normally this is formed, it is kind of a society where where people want flexibility, where one member can either get in or get out easily. So, normally it is promoted for one can read, this is actually copied. I did not give the source, I should have given the source. So, members are free to leave and join the society. I would recommend that one should read them rather than I kind of go through. Now, what are the factors that determine what forms of business one should adopt? It is decided by or driven by the nature and size of the business. If the business is a very small one and it is not a large pan India based, means they are present in a huge geography, then it is always better that they go for a proprietorship or partnership. So, size definitely matters about this decision. Then a scale of operation, like if you have a chain of operation, then it is always better to have a limited liability, because you never know what kind of things are happening at different stores, different places. Employees may kind of do something and then that may inflict huge liability on the company. Then the degree of control desired, if somebody wants to have full control, he thinks that he or she has major contribution, they can go for proprietorship. If they want a balanced skill, means complementary skills to be contributed by multiple, then they have to lose control. So, depending on the level of control desired, ownership may be changed. Amount of capital required, you want huge capital, go for public limited, or if the capital is not required, then decide accordingly. Comparative tax liability, I have discussed that corporate has a 30% tax rate, otherwise other than that in proprietorship has a slightly higher tax rate. Degree of compliance and government formalities is complex as we move forward as per my slide. The kind of pecking order that I have shown, as you move forward, the complexity of compliances increases. Here are some of the links from where I have taken some of the information, mostly Ministry of Corporate Affairs. I have also referred a book by Harvard Business Review. They have a chapter devoted on this. So, in conclusion, given the cost of creating and maintaining company, it may be a good idea to start a partnership firm during the early stage of an entrepreneurial venture, when things are yet to take shape, there is no cash flow. So, you are burning cash. So, it is absolutely of no use to start a registered company just for the sake of having a registered company. You are going to burn more cash just to maintain the company. Whenever it is necessary, suppose you are approaching to an accelerator or incubator, or some angel would like to invest in your company, definitely they are going to insist to make it a private limited company or any kind of company, because company has perpetual life, meaning it goes on and on. Secondly, the shares should be easily transferable. For a proprietorship and partnership firm, shares cannot be transferred. So, even if angel invest in your company, they may not get access to the share. So, they may not get holding. So, that's kind of decides the structure, means that will force you to convert your proprietorship or partnership into private limited or any other limited liability company. Thank you very much.